Why would a veteran work at 100% VA disability? What is it actually like working at 100%? Will it affect your rating? Can you get in trouble with the VA? And if you do work, is there anything you can do to protect your rating in the long run? These are questions veterans ask every single day. I know I've asked them. And today I want to break these things down in hopefully a way that's clear and easy to understand for your peace of mind and the protection of your rating and your family's future. I'm going to cover things like the confusion around who can work, who can't work, and why. Also, why some veterans choose to work at 100% and what it's really like for them in the workplace. We're going to hear straight from what veterans have to say. And also, whatever you do, don't miss number 3. This is where things can go wrong and what you can do to protect your rating in the long run if you do work. And I'm going to give you some thoughts, some ideas, a couple of things I've actually done myself through the HR department that may help protect your rating. Would you please consider subscribing to my channel? Help me reach as many veterans as possible. Would you like this video? Share it with anyone you think it could benefit. And also drop me a comment. If you're comfortable, let me know, are you working, not working, why? And also let me know where you're watching from. I love to hear that, and I try to respond to all the comments. Well, before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to the veterans community watching these videos from all around the world, all across the United States. I see you in the comments. I hear you. It's an absolute honor to have you on this channel. Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, the confusion amongst veterans about working at 100% VA disability. You may have heard some things like this. I know a 100% disabled veteran who was working as a mechanic. He's my neighbor. The VA found out he was working and he lost his rating. Also, I've heard you'll lose everything if you make over the poverty threshold. Someone else said, no, you won't. I make 6 figures and I'm 100%. A lot of the fear around working at 100% comes from one basic issue. It's one number, 100, but there's different meanings. There's 100% schedular, where you made 100%, the VA math added up, the combined ratings calculation, but the VA thinks some of those conditions may improve, so you could be examined in the future, but you're 100. Also, there's 100% P&T, permanent and total. Same type of thing, you made 100%, but the VA doesn't expect you to improve, so there typically are not follow-up exams. Also, there's 100% TDIU, that's total disability based on individual unemployability. This individual, this veteran, doesn't add up through the VA math, combined ratings to 100%, but they meet the qualifications for individual unemployability because they have enough service-connected disabilities. And so as a result, they get the 100% pay, but they do have restrictions on work, and they can get in trouble with the VA if they earn over the poverty level. Also, I want to throw out a shout out to the TDIU 100% permanent and total. Those are TDIU vets at 100%, but they're not expected to get better, and so it's permanent and total. And then also there's 100% temporary, and these are those that are typically recovering from surgeries, illnesses, including cancer, and so they have a temporary 100%. And if you want a full breakdown of all of this, I have a separate video for that. I'll drop the link in the description for you. So where well-intended veterans get this wrong is we hear of one type of 100%. We know someone, a veteran with one type of 100%, and we just assume that is the only 100% there is. I know I did that before I got it. So let's look at those statements again real quick. I know a 100% disabled veteran who was working as a mechanic, my neighbor. The VA found out and he lost his rating. Well, we kind of know now that veteran was more than likely TDIU. Okay. Someone else said, you'll lose everything if you make over the poverty threshold. Another, more than likely, TDIU. No, you won't. I make 6 figures and I'm 100%. So they're probably schedular 100% or permanent and total 100%. So that's where this confusion comes from. And I hope that this helps clear it up in your mind. It's one number, but there's different types, different rules, and different restrictions. Number two, why some veterans work at 100% and what it's really like for them. Please listen to this. I'm going to share a little bit about my own situation at the end of this section. You may have heard things like this. How can a veteran work if they're 100% permanent and total VA disability? We just had a very popular YouTuber blast out a video about that. You may have heard things like, that's not right. Those veterans are double dipping. Also, you may have heard, if a veteran is working at 100%, they must be fine. I want to share with you straight from veterans themselves what it's really like working at 100% as a disabled veteran. One Air Force veteran works as a kindergarten teacher at 100%. Said, I'm 100% P&T, and I teach pre-K in the public school system. And honestly, I think working helps my condition. It might sound crazy, but my mental health is better with a classroom full of 4-year-olds than it was when I was sitting at home. It's a blended general education special ed class, and it's a wild time, but it keeps me distracted and with motivation to help raise a bunch of economically disadvantaged kiddos. Man, shout out to that Air Force veteran. What an awesome group of kids that get this veteran to teach them in pre-K. Also, there's another veteran that said he's working to keep the lights on. And actually, his wife wrote in the comments and said, during her husband's insomnia exam, they asked him if it's so bad, your quote, service-connected insomnia you're trying to get, why are you still working? And he said, well, because he has to provide for his family, and also he's not functioning well enough to do the job like he should. And she put in that comment, he's had write-ups, he's gotten in trouble with HR, he's had missed days at work, productivity decreases, things like this. So this is one veteran working to keep the lights on. And then another veteran wrote in and told me he's at 100% P&T, has a job, but will say that his chronic service-connected disabilities have kept him from being promoted. Okay, and he said a close friend told him after they were promoted to a leadership position, this is the friend, that the veteran having to go to frequent VA appointments, needing time off to cope with his disabilities, being put on a modified duty for up to 2 weeks at a time, made his leadership feel that he was unreliable. That kind of sounds like disability discrimination to me. I mean, I'm not legal, but so anyway, he said, so I have a job and they understand that I have chronic conditions, so they support me taking the time off to take care of myself, but promotion ain't happening, his exact words. And I want to share just a little bit from my story, and that is working and 100% permanent in total. And just so that you know, I'm not talking from theory, and this isn't just a script to record. I personally have suffered from literal anxiety and panic attacks on Zoom calls. I still don't know why, but I've literally had to shut the camera off, ended up on the floor having a full-blown panic attack, tight chest, can't breathe, mouth completely dry. I've even, to try to keep working, had to do things like trying to cause pain, trying to, nothing that would be serious or anything, but just trying to cause some kind of reason for my mind to break out of the anxiety, out of the panic. I guess, start to see so many images coming up on the screen, and I'm not sure what happened, but I'm definitely thankful to the VA for the mental health care I'm getting for that. Also, I've had to miss important meetings. Basically, I would have an anxiety attack or a panic attack before the meeting and was actually just didn't show up. I wasn't even physically able to notify anyone. And then afterwards, just to be honest, too embarrassed to tell anybody what happened. So just to let you know, working at 100% disability doesn't mean you're okay at all. These are some of the stories that veterans have shared with me, and I wanted to share a little bit of my story. There's a whole lot more, but I want to share just a little bit of my story with you. Also, as a matter of fact, to record these videos, just so you know, I have to make accommodations for myself. I have an iPad that I'm looking at right now, and I have it propped up in the middle of a bunch of boxes. And I've learned about psychological grounding. So I have to have this grounded, a wall of boxes in front of me with this iPad tucked into there, books on top of it. And I have to do that to just make sure I don't get triggered into anxiety or panic or anything else. So when someone says, if you're working at 100%, you must be fine, they have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. Working does not mean you're okay. It means you're surviving. And number three, where things can go wrong and how to protect yourself working at 100%. Now, this next part is one veterans never hear about until it's too late. These are some traps, some out there and some that we self-sabotage ourselves with, but they can put your rating at risk. And I want to share with you what they are and how to protect yourself. Risk number one is the TDI confusion. And we talked a little bit about that, but I want to tell you right now, the biggest thing you need to do for this is you need to confirm whether you are TDIU or you're not TDIU. That has everything to do with whether you can work with your 100% and not get in trouble with the VA or put your rating at massive risk. What you need to do is go to your decision letter and look for specific phrases like this: entitlement to individual employability is granted, or you are being paid at the 100% rate due to unemployability. If you see those words, you have the 100%, and I know you're thankful for that, but the rules are a little bit different. You have to make sure that you follow those TDIU rules. So the protection here is simple. If your letter says unemployability, full-time work is a massive risk in most cases. And that's not judgment, that's just the rules. Risk number two is the job mismatch alignment. This is where 100% scheduler veterans get tripped up. This happens when your job duties contradict the very reason you're rated. For instance, let's say you are rated 40% for your back and 20% for your knees. The VA rating says you have limited range of motion and you cannot stand for long periods. But then you take a job at a warehouse, loading dock, or you work in construction. If you ever get called in and an examiner, C&P examiner or VA reviews your file, they may see that conflict. How can this veteran have severe limitation of motion if they're lifting boxes 8 hours a day? And I'm not a rater, but I would imagine they'd probably think to themselves, they must have been improved. They've had improvement. And then maybe you are rated for mental health agoraphobia. That's like a fear of being around a lot of people. And then you take a job as a greeter at Walmart. The paper trail doesn't look like you're pushing through the pain, even though you may be. It looks like you may have gotten better, significantly better. So if it looks like you got better, they might propose a reduction. So what do you need to do to protect yourself in this job mismatch? Well, you need to align your job, your work, with your rating, your service-connected disability. And here's some things that I recommend. Make sure your job doesn't contradict it, and then go through HR. And here's what I recommend you do. Make sure your HR records show you as a disabled veteran status, if possible. So I know in some systems I've seen where there's a box that says disability status. You want to check that as yes. There's also sometimes in these HR systems, veteran status. You want to check that, yes, I'm a veteran. There's things like campaign service designation. If that applies, you want to check yes. And then there's one that could say something like special disabled veteran. You want to make sure you check yes on that one too. So make sure your HR paperwork is in line. That way, if you ever need anything from HR, you've got that already established in your file. And then if appropriate, and I've actually done this in my prior job, If appropriate, request an accommodation for your condition. So just checking those boxes typically doesn't grant you accommodations. You have to make a request for a ADA accommodation. And so if you're working while dealing with your VA conditions, these are the 10 most common. I tried to look some up for you. And I actually requested a couple of those, like I said, and was granted. Uh, and none of these require oversharing of your diagnosis. You'll find HR is very peculiar. They don't want you oversharing. But here's things like flexible breaks. You could request for pain spikes, anxiety, IBS, or grounding, like I mentioned. Number two, unrestricted bathroom access for IBS, GERD, Crohn's disease, anxiety. Some veterans working at 100%, you may be looking at one, basically could have a mental health attack that, and then I'm not a doctor, but my doctor said the gastrointestinal tract is the sounding board of the sympathetic nervous system. So you have something go wrong up here, it travels down and can trigger those other service-connected conditions like IBS, things like that. So you might need unrestricted bathroom access. Also, sit-stand flexibility so you're not locked into one position. Ergonomic equipment, a stand-up desk, a chair, a footrest, monitor adjustments for your conditions. Reduce lifting, walking, or standing requirements to align with your condition. Also, adjusted lighting for migraines, TBI, sensory issues. Maybe noise reduction options, headphones, white noise, private area. Remote or hybrid work, when symptoms flare or commuting is a trigger. I actually had to have one of those myself. And also flexible start times for sleep issues, medications, or morning flare-ups. People suffering with service-connected insomnia may need a flexible start time accommodation. So what you want to do here is choose work that fits your limitations. But if you do have a sedentary job, like a desk job, it usually conflicts less with physical ratings. But make sure your HR rating records, your status, and things like that reflect your current VA disabilities, and request those accommodations. Get them in writing, get them documented so that if you ever need it, you'll have it. And risk number three, the how's work sabotage. This is one we do to ourselves. And what you want to do to solve this is be honest. So we may go to our VA primary care appointment or our private doctor, and they ask, how are things going? And we say, it's going fine. How's work? Oh, it's going fine. No big deal. We just honestly don't want to talk about it. We're tired or whatever else. We're trying to be polite. The doctor could end up writing something in your patient file like, patient reports doing well, employed full-time, mood stable. 6 months later, you get called in for a routine future exam or a C&P exam. Maybe you request SMC and they look into your file or other things. You hope not, but maybe they do. And they don't see the panic attack. What they see is what the doctor wrote about what you told them at your appointments. And they just see, hey, their patient's doing well, must have improved. So what can you do? You need to protect yourself. Don't drop out of getting continuous care. And then be honest with your providers. I am working, but it's really hard. I have to take breaks to manage my back pain. I'm having anxiety meetings before my meetings. I have to recover after my meetings. I can't take the medication that I need to take to control my conditions because it affects my cognitive abilities on the job. And if I make a mistake, I could cause a lot of problems, a lot of trouble at work. Also, number three here, keep logs of what you have to do to get through the day. The medications you're taking, when you take them, how much time it takes you to get ready for work, personal coping methods to get through the day and tough parts of your job, the impact socially on the job, the interpersonal impacts, psychological impacts. Are you experiencing paranoia, exclusion? You feel alienated, things like this. Impact after work, more medications you got to take to recuperate, sleep patterns. Maybe you can't sleep because of what's going on at work, and then it just snowballs into the next day. So the protection here is simple. Keep going to the doctor for your conditions and make sure to be honest about the difficulty of trying to work on the job and the impact after work is over. So say the quiet part out loud so it ends up in your medical records. So when you put all of this together, the confusion, can you work, can't you work at 100%? The reality of working at 100%, what veterans face that are working at 100%, and the risk, hopefully you can see exactly now how you can protect yourself long term. And maybe none of this is ever needed, but I'm just speaking for myself. I'm going to be prepared if it is. I'm not taking anybody's word that my rating will never be reviewed again. So for more rating protection, vet to vet, lived experience insight, be sure to check out one of these videos on the screen. Please subscribe to my channel. Help me reach as many veterans as possible. Like, subscribe, drop me a comment, and I'll catch you on the next one.